Design Lab Project 8C. An ad or poster layout in InDesign using a Photoshop file and an Illustrator EPS for the logo. New document. Default size will be fine. That's 8.5 by 11 or letter size. That is the size of the ad. The default 3 pica or half-inch margins are excellent for magazine ads because typically a publication likes to have everything within a safe live area that's a half-inch margin within the 8.5 by 11 trim of the magazine. Now some magazines have other trim sizes like 8 1/4 by 10 7/8 or other fractions, and you would have to refer to the specifications from the publication for the exact trim size, the exact size with bleeds, and the exact live area. But we'll assume 8.5 by 11 and have a half-inch margin. Bleeds will be industry standard 1/8 of an inch or 9 points. There will be no slug area. This will be for print. I would make sure that it's for print. 1/8 of an inch. You need your PSD Photoshop image. I'm going to just drag that in. I think I'll probably use this one, and I will align that to the upper left corner of the bleed guide and then hold the shift key to constrain. Actually, I'm holding the shift and the control key to constrain in scaling both the image frame and the image at the same time. Otherwise, they would scale separately. Okay, and then I might want to shift it up a little bit. Let's say about there. I need a logo. I'll drag in the logo, so the logo will be here somewhere. When you're dragging something in, and if you have an image frame here, be careful that you don't drag the object and drop it on the image frame, because then it's going to replace whatever's in your image frame. Command Z, undo that. The logo is going to be there somewhere. I don't know exactly where. I need the USP. The USP is what was old is new again. And I have to decide what font that will be in, probably something that corresponds to the corporate image of the client product. And this Massimo's label is in Futura, so I'll use Futura. For my USP or tagline or headline, must be a subhead. A subhead if I'm using Massimo's as the headline. Probably want that in some subhead size, like perhaps 24 point. And I don't know if it should be with the quotes or without. I'll put the quotes in. So that will be on there somewhere. The other thing that we want to have in there is a little paragraph of text. For that, I'm going to go to my instruction sheet here and just copy this. And I'm not doing this because I'm lazy. I'm doing this because I'm efficient and practical, and there's no point in me rekeying something that's already been keyed. In other words, I have what we call captured keystrokes here. So I'm going to Command C, copy those, and perhaps I'll put that in another text frame. I might put it all in one text frame with the subhead later, but first I've got to decide what I'm doing with everything. Command Option I, I'm going to need to look at my hidden characters and take out these returns that are mostly there because that's how copying it from the PDF perceives the line breaks. I didn't actually have line breaks in there when I created the PDF. So there's my ad copy. Now I have to figure out what to do with all of that. And you might want to put the ad copy in someplace in the middle, someplace where it is readable. You probably don't want it to be too small. You don't want it to be too large. You might want to not have hyphenation, so maybe I'll turn off hyphenation here in the paragraph control panel. You might want it centered, Command Shift C, centered. I'm sure that I don't want what we call widows, a word on a line by itself. So right here, I'm going to Command Option X, put a fixed space in there, and that causes InDesign to read this natural dressings as a single word. And with hyphenation turned off, it will move that down rather than break it. So I might want that in there somewhere, and again, I'm not sure where. It could be, I need to Command A, select all, Command C, copy this, and put it in here so that I use the USP as a subhead or as a heading, and just try this. Use the USP as a heading for the ad copy, and then perhaps I need to add space after so that it doesn't crowd it. Certainly when you're using two different sizes of type together. For example, this is 24 point for my subhead, and my body copy here is 14 on 18. If I don't add some space after the subhead, it can tend to look a little crowded, and this works out okay. But if I had any capitals over here, they might be looking too close to the descenders on the subhead. There's a general rule of thumb for mixing type sizes, and that is that whatever the top line of type is, you take 1/3 of that type size. So this is 24 point, 1/3 of that would be 8. And this type size is 14. I would take 2/3 of that, which would be about 10. So 10 and 8 is 18. You take 1/3 of this size type and 2/3 of that size type, and you use that as the leading to ensure that you have a comfortable amount of space for descenders and ascenders of different sizes of type to not run into each other. I might do that. Now it seems awfully crowded because I've got 2 bottles in here, so if I don't want both of these bottles, I can right click on the image and say edit original, or if you think it's going to open with the wrong software, you can say edit with and make sure that it edits with the program you think you want to use. And I could edit it here, but there's something else I could do, and I'm not even going to edit this. I'm going to right click on this and say Object Layer Options and turn off this group and see what that is. That's that one right there. So if I turn that one off, I could put my add copy here, or I could put my add copy in the middle. Maybe I'll put my add copy here and move the logo down here. Maybe the logo should be down here. I could say that my add copy is going to be someplace within this area, and that my heading will be centered, Command-Shift-C. Perhaps I'll make it much larger. Let's say about there. It probably needs to be a different color since it's on a darker background. I could just sample the label color. That might work. You can see here again, I have used a large size type and my text is running into the descenders. Let's make the math easy here. I'll make this 48 point type. I'll let it probably 44 since I can use what we call negative leading, where the lead is less than the actual type size in a headline. That's 48 on 44. 1/3 of 48 is 16. 2/3 of, let's make this 15 point, 2/3 of 15 is 10. So if the space from here to there is 26 points, that should be comfortable. So I'll go to my paragraph control panel, and since this is 14 on 18, I would have to add another 8 points above it to have that be a comfortable space where it's not running into the descenders. I have a dark background and I have black type, so this probably isn't a great idea. Maybe I should move that all the way down to here. Maybe the Massimo's logo will go up here. And perhaps this should be a larger size with loose lead, which is kind of classy looking in advertising if you don't have a lot of copy. But maybe it should be much lower than that. Maybe I should add lots of space down there. Just think about 6 picas in there. Doesn't look like a really well organized composition either, so I don't know that that's what I would do. This is for you to decide though. You could break this here. Notice I'm using a soft return. One more item on this, and that is probably you should try using the story option if you're going to use the USP with the quote marks. This tends to look not aligned. If I draw a line right there, you have a counter underneath the quote mark, so that makes a big gap there, and it doesn't really look like it's aligned to anything. Of course, this is center alignment, but if you use left alignment, it becomes really obvious that that doesn't look quite correct. If you use the story option, which gives you optical margin alignment, you turn that on and off, you see what that does? It sort of ignores or accounts for the extra space that's underneath the quote mark. This should be based on, say, 48 point type. So whether I do it left or centered, this looks more correct than if I turn this off. And notice how much greater that gap is in there. Probably I would do it optical margin alignment and centered, and a soft return because I want this to be treated always as a single paragraph. I know it's a headline, not a paragraph, but it's treated as a paragraph. That's a start, but maybe in object layer options, maybe I should try this other background instead of that one, and then I won't have a problem with my black type. But then the headline, this is going to have to be some color that matches something else in the ad, like perhaps this red triangle on the logo. So far, this is not really interesting looking to me. If I go back to the other object layer options, go back to the other background, and again, I would need to have a lighter headline. If I was going to reverse out text, and it could be this color or it could be white, this is what we call reverse out text, where it's a light color surrounded by darker color. Now let me make this white. Now there's a hazard in doing this with some typefaces where you have a high contrast typeface where you have thick and thin strokes. The stem strokes are thick and then the hairlines are considerably thinner. They tend to start breaking up if the type is small. This isn't too bad at this size. I'm going to go down a little bit, and I think on your screen you probably see that this is starting to break up. You're starting to see gaps in the thin parts of the type. If you are going to put small type against a darker background, or you've got even this size type, or even if I went back to the 18 point or 20 point that I had, if I'm going to use this in a dark background, I probably want to make sure that those thin parts of the letters don't get choked, because there are two things that happen. First of all, optical phenomena, that light letters on a dark background look smaller than dark letters on a light background. And the other thing is that when this is printed, you've got ink on the printing plate that is transferred in the offset printing process to a blanket, a rubber blanket, that then presses that ink onto the paper on the impression cylinder. So in that process of transferring from plate to blanket to paper, the ink tends to spread slightly, and that causes them to just mechanically choke the thin parts of the letters. So you have the optical choking of the letters because you have light on a dark background. You have the mechanical choking of the letters because the ink tends to spread slightly on the press. What I would do, and this is in Minion right at the moment, is I would take the next heavier weight of the typeface. Command C, copy, Command V, paste, and I'll move this up so they're both on about the same color background. So this was the original. I had regular, and this is medium. That should hold up a little better in printing by being slightly heavier. Or if I was doing this in Futura to go with the label, I wouldn't use Futura light. If I wanted it to look light, I might use book, or I might use medium to make sure that it has sufficient contrast to hold up when the ink spreads slightly when it's printed. So that's a decision you'll have to make, whether you're doing light type on a dark background or dark type on a light background. And if you decide that it's light type on a dark background, then you will have to allow for the fact that the ink is going to spread slightly, and make sure that your letters don't choke and start breaking up. You need a headline, you need body copy, you need a logo. You also need Massimo's Foods Inc. San Francisco, CA. It's the corporate signature for the ad, and I will again make this probably Futura. And since it's going to be small, I will go with either medium or possibly heavy. And this doesn't have to be very large. Actually, Command T, character palette, because then I don't even have to have my cursor in there. I can just have it selected as an object. Make this maybe 14 point, and it could be black. For that I have to have the type selected, otherwise I will fill the text frame with black. And that could be at the bottom, just inside the margins. Command Shift R, right aligned, put it down there. Maybe Command B, text frame options, bottom align it, and then snap it to the guide. Or it could be over here. If I was going to put it over on this side, I'd probably put it here rather than up the side. If it's here where it's sort of hidden in the plate, that would be okay going up the side. But one or the other, not both. I'm going to take that one out.